The Middle Ages are often painted as a time of ignorance and superstition, where people supposedly believed the earth was flat. We imagine medieval folks fearing they'd fall off the edge of the world, a myth repeated in books and movies for generations. This story makes us feel advanced, as if we've emerged from darkness into enlightenment. But is it true? Did people really think the earth was flat? The idea of a flat earth in the Middle Ages is one of history's most persistent myths. In reality, evidence from medieval writings, art, and church teachings tells a different story. Most educated people knew the earth was a sphere, and had for centuries. So where did this misunderstanding come from, and why does it persist? Let's journey through history to separate fact from fiction. The story of a round earth begins not in the Renaissance nor with the voyages of Columbus but much earlier, in the sunlit courtyards and bustling marketplaces of ancient Greece. Here, curiosity and reason flourished, and the seeds of scientific thought were sown. It was the ancient Greeks who first dared to question the nature of our world, looking beyond myth and legend to seek answers in observation and logic. As early as the 6th century BC, philosophers like Pythagoras proposed the earth was a sphere, initially as a bold philosophical idea inspired by the perfection of the circle and the harmony of the cosmos. Over time, this idea grew stronger as evidence began to accumulate. Aristotle in the 4th century BC offered practical proofs. He noticed that travelers saw new stars as they journeyed north or south, and that ships disappeared hull first over the horizon. He also pointed to the Earth's round shadow on the moon during eclipses, a phenomenon that could only be explained if the Earth was spherical. The changing position of stars in the night sky as one traveled further north or south provided further evidence, reinforcing the idea that the Earth was not flat, but curved. These observations only made sense on a curved surface, and the Greeks began to see the world in a new light, one shaped by reason and careful study. The Greeks didn't stop there. They were determined to measure the Earth, to turn theory into quantifiable fact. Using simple tools and sharp minds, they set out to calculate the planet's size. Eratosthenes, in the 3rd century BC, famously calculated the Earth's circumference by comparing the length of shadows in two cities at noon on the same day. His result was astonishingly close to the value we know today, a testament to Greek ingenuity. This knowledge became standard among educated Greeks and was taught in their schools, discussed in their academies, and spread throughout the Mediterranean world. Plato and others debated and refined the concept of a spherical earth in their writings, passing this understanding to generations of students and thinkers. The Greeks' blend of reason, observation, and mathematics laid the foundation for our understanding of the planet's shape, influencing science for centuries to come. Their insights traveled through empires and centuries, shaping how educated people saw the world long after Athens faded, and inspiring future generations to keep questioning and exploring. The round earth was a triumph of ancient intellect, a shining example of how curiosity and reason can reveal the true nature of our world. When Rome conquered Greece, it absorbed Greek knowledge, including the idea of a spherical earth. Roman thinkers like Cicero, Virgil, and Pliny the Elder accepted the Earth's roundness as fact. Pliny even repeated Aristotle's proofs and pointed to ships disappearing over the horizon as evidence. Roman mapmakers and geographers like Ptolemy based their work on a globe. Ptolemy's Geographia explained how to project the curved Earth onto flat maps, influencing geography for over 1,000 years. By the fall of Rome, the spherical Earth was standard among the educated across Europe and the Mediterranean. This knowledge became part of the curriculum for anyone with a formal education. The Romans ensured Greek science survived, ready for the next generation. The idea of a round Earth was never lost. As the Western Roman Empire fell, knowledge wasn't lost. It was preserved in Christian monasteries. Early Christian thinkers like St. Augustine accepted the Earth's sphericity, integrating it into their worldview. Augustine's writings and those of Boethius described the Earth as a sphere and were widely read in medieval schools. Monks copied and studied these texts, keeping ancient science alive. Isidore of Seville's encyclopedia, Etymologies, described the Earth as a globe and became a standard reference. Medieval scholars didn't just copy, they engaged with and expanded on ancient ideas. The educated world of the early Middle Ages remembered the wisdom of the ancients. The Earth's roundness was a basic fact for those who studied. Knowledge survived through careful preservation and active scholarship. the flame of science never went out. In the High Middle Ages, learning flourished and universities emerged in cities like Bologna, Paris, and Oxford. These institutions taught astronomy and geography based on Aristotle and Ptolemy. The spherical Earth was a starting point for any discussion of the cosmos. Scholars like Bede and Aquinas took the round Earth for granted, using it in their scientific and theological arguments. Even popular works like the Travels of Sir John Mandeville described circumnavigating the globe. The idea of a round Earth was mainstream, from church leaders to popular literature. Medieval people were not ignorant, they understood the world's true shape. The evidence is overwhelming. The educated Middle Ages knew the Earth was a sphere. So where did the flat Earth myth actually come from? Many people assume it's an ancient belief, but the real story is far more surprising and recent than you might think. In fact, the idea that most people once believed in a flat Earth is largely a product of the 19th century, not the distant past. It was during this era of rapid change and scientific progress that the myth truly took shape. Writers and intellectuals of the time wanted to position themselves as enlightened defenders of science. To do this, they often exaggerated the ignorance of earlier ages, especially the Middle Ages, which they unfairly portrayed as a time when superstition reigned and scientific knowledge was suppressed. One of the most influential mythmakers was Washington Irving. In his 1828 book about Christopher Columbus, Irving invented a dramatic scene in which Columbus bravely argues for a round Earth against stubborn flat Earth churchmen. This confrontation, though vivid and memorable, never actually happened. Yet Irving's story was so compelling and so widely read that it quickly became accepted as historical fact, spreading through classrooms and popular culture alike. French scholar Jean-Antoine Latronne, along with later writers like John William Draper and Andrew Dixon White, took the myth even further. They claimed that the medieval church not only believed in a flat Earth, but actively enforced this view, using it as evidence of religion's opposition to science. Their books became bestsellers, and their ideas were repeated in textbooks, lectures, and popular histories, cementing the myth in the minds of generations of students and readers. The flat Earth story soon became a powerful symbol of the supposed conflict between science and religion, a narrative that was easy to teach and even easier to remember. But in reality, the idea that medieval people believed in a flat Earth is itself a 19th century invention. Medieval scholars, in fact, widely accepted that the Earth was round. The myth persists today because it's dramatic, simple, and fits a popular narrative about progress overcoming ignorance. It's a story that sticks in the imagination even if it's not true. But when we look at the evidence, it's clear. The flat Earth myth is just that, a myth, born not from medieval minds but from the imaginations of 19th century writers. The real story of Columbus is very different from the myth. Columbus and the Spanish experts all knew the Earth was a sphere. The debate was about the size of the Earth, not its shape. Columbus underestimated the Earth's circumference and overestimated Asia's width, believing the voyage west would be short. Spanish scholars, relying on ancient calculations, correctly argued the ocean was too vast to cross safely. They feared starvation, not falling off the edge. Columbus was wrong about the distance, but lucky the Americas were in the way. His voyage was funded as a risky gamble, not because he convinced anyone the world was round. The real controversy was about distance, not flat Earth belief. The myth of Columbus versus the flat earthers is pure fiction. The evidence is clear. Educated people from ancient Greece, including philosophers and astronomers, understood far more about our world than we often give them credit for. They observed the stars, calculated the Earth's circumference, and debated the nature of the cosmos with remarkable insight. Through the Middle Ages, scholars continued this tradition of inquiry. Contrary to popular belief, they knew the Earth was round, and this knowledge was preserved and taught in universities and monasteries across Europe. The idea that people in the Middle Ages believed in a flat Earth is itself a myth, a story that was actually invented in the 19th century. This myth was created to dramatize the supposed conflict between science and religion, painting the past as ignorant and the present as enlightened. Myths like this persist because they're simple, memorable, and flattering. They make us feel clever, as if we've outgrown the mistakes of our ancestors. They allow us to look back and feel superior to the past, reinforcing the idea that progress is always linear. But the real story is more complex. Medieval scholars actually debated the size of the Earth, not its shape, and their discussions were often sophisticated and nuanced. The flat Earth myth provides a convenient symbol for ignorance, but it distorts the reality of history and oversimplifies the achievements of earlier generations. It unfairly robs the Middle Ages of their achievements, their intelligence, and their genuine curiosity about the world. By understanding how and why this myth arose, we can learn to question the stories we inherit and recognize the complexity of the past. This helps us become more critical thinkers, less likely to accept simple narratives at face value, and more willing to dig deeper for the truth. History is rarely a simple tale of darkness and light. It's a tapestry woven from countless threads of discovery, debate, and human experience. The truth is richer, messier, and far more human than any myth. And for centuries, the educated world has known, despite what the stories say, the Earth is round.